Good afternoon. I will tell you that from that last presentation and reading those quotes, I'm a little shaken. I want to take the time to say that we're talking about people that are dying in our communities. And with the presentations that have been done so far, our communities are very segregated, so we don't know what's happening in the community next to us. When we come to work as people of color, we are not often allowed to be able to speak our truth. We are asked to be included in your culture, included in the way that things happen. And that's, it's hard. I have the pleasure of implementing Equity and Social Justice Strategic Plan in King County, Dr. Martin Luther King County. That's in Seattle, Washington, the only county named after King. So there's many King counties. I was asked that earlier today, but only one that's named after someone that's so brilliant, peaceful, kind, and wants to see a beloved community where we all can thrive. So I might go a little off script, just from the powerfulness of my co-presenters. Thank you. I want to touch a little bit about redlining. We might all know what it is, but there's a few points that I think are important to understand. 98% of the money, millions and billions of dollars, went only to whites and their ability to buy homes. And so thus, when they talk about the wealth gap that was in the presentation, your wealth is mostly in your home. In the mostly redlined areas, there wasn't very many home buying that was happening there. It was a lot of renting. In addition to the suburb that was talked about, there was a program called Urban Renewal. And what that did is basically renewed the downtown areas of cities, displaced many people. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was 90% or more, 60% or more of the houses were not replaced. So when you see families of Black and brown people living 2 or 3 families together or not having a place to live, it's because of policies that we've done. Now, I will say that many of the policies in the past were done very intentionally and with cruel and mean spirit, and that's not the people that I see today. I'm not saying we don't have some that exist, but I am saying for the majority of the people that I work with and I encounter, it is not their intent for this to happen, but the lack of ignorance and awareness of how these systems work are allowing us to play this out every single day and allow these things to continue. So I get the pleasure, like I said, of advancing equity and social justice. Equity is to understand the differences between inequities in our community and to bring equity there. That is absolutely a spatial analysis. I'm extremely excited to be here on the Esri campus because you guys have some of the best tools for spatial analysis. And I'm making a call for awareness, understanding, education, and history of where we are, where we come from, and where we are today, and interdisciplinary collaboration to fight racism and the effects of racism, because it exists here. We don't need to feel bad about it. We don't need to feel blamey and shamey about it. It does hurt. It doesn't feel good, but together, hand in hand, we can move past that. And that's what I'm calling for today. In King County, not like most places in the United States, race and place matters. Your zip code determines how long you live, what hazardous effects that you get to breathe in. That has nothing to do with you or your family, but more to policies like redlining, malevolent maps that were used to create these policies. In our area, our field, I'm a technologist. So we created things. And we need to acknowledge that, and then we need to be brilliant and innovative to undo this, because it can be undone. We did it, and we can undo it. It is not acceptable that your race and place predicts whether you have an opportunity to thrive in this country, and it's definitely not our stand in King County that that is not acceptable. You will see that, just like the maps for the redlining, that communities of color have more burdens and less benefits by place than their white counterparts. And so our job is to work towards trying to figure out how we can address that and deal with that. We have determinants of equity. These are not unique to King County. There's lots of indicators and indexes out there that show how well or not well communities are doing. Skip that talk, just keep things moving and get us on time. King County has 4 strategies in its strategic plan. Invest upstream where the needs are greatest in community partners and employees with accountable, transparent leadership. And what brought me back to GIS work in the last few years is trying to understand of investing where the needs are greatest. There was comments in other presentations about the underserved communities. We know where they are. You can use a whole bunch of indicators, and 98% of the time, whether you're talking about income, whether you're talking about percent people of color, it's the same places. What I find in King County is, and lots of places, we spend a lot of time doing an equity analysis of where those places are, and I need more time being spent on what are we gonna do, what actions are we gonna take, how are we gonna invest where the needs are greatest. That was also called out in previous presentations. Questions and challengings that are going on. How do we define where the needs are greatest? And I don't mean that as a question, but as a process. Right? I also have a lean background. How can we be lean, efficient, and effective? Does it really make sense for King County and all its 39 cities and all their GIS people, some places having 0, some of our cities having 1, be running the same analysis to understand where the needs are greatest? In fact, I'm hoping that where the needs greatest maps can be created and put in the Living Atlas so that every county can simply post it into open data. So we already have this flow of information of where the needs are greatest. And now we can start moving to looking at where the needs are greatest and making targets on how we're gonna invest to change these situations. What is the goal for the indicator? We have a lot of indicators that are out there, and do we have a goal for it? Are we trying to decrease the effects of the harmful environmental effects that they're living in? Or are we trying to increase housing, right? We need to think about those things, and we need to work on solutions that are going to hit the unserved and underserved places in our country. There's been a lot of research about the success of a society, the thrivingness of a society is not actually correlated with gross national product or median household income. But there's been a lot of research that it does absolutely correlate with relative income inequality or relative inequalities. So this is a call for a methodology that looks at the difference between the top and the bottom 20%. Weighted by population if it's a population measure, weighted by land mass if it's a land mass measure, like tree canopy. Equity and social justice crosses everything that we do. It's how we need to do everything that we're doing. It is not another silo. It is something that's how we do what we do in all the silos of the work that exist. And collaboratively with public, private, and civic partners, we can change together the situations that we are in. This is what we've been working on. Basically, this is the ops dashboard from Esri. And we are taking the notion of quintiles, which is basically the bottom 20%, the next 20%, middle 20% next, and the top 20% to do exactly what I was stating as far as looking at the relative inequities. Right here, I'm showing you high-speed internet, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but this could be any indicator or any index, okay? So whatever field you're in, whatever you're used to working in, you can pick what you would choose. And our goal then, collectively, would be to decrease the difference between the top and the bottom 20%. In digital equity, King County has about 94 to 96, depending on if you're using Living Atlas data or census data that we have from 2017 versus 2018, or a new survey we just took, but households that have access to the internet, that means 4 to 6% do not. When I started this job 3 years ago, I was told that those people wanted to be off the grid, and so we didn't really have a digital equity problem. Now, if you look at the relativeness of King County and a city like Detroit, where 40% of the households have access to the internet, and we're in a census that is going to be online, that is absolutely unacceptable. And resources should be being poured into cities like Detroit, where 60% of their households don't have access to the internet, yet we've already decided it's okay to move something so important as the census. So important as getting data. We are literally doing another policy right now, maybe not intentionally, maybe, but I'm gonna tell you the effect is that you're gonna lose data from the communities that are most underserved or unserved. And this is why I chose digital equity to be on the screen. So we wanna be able to look at those things and be able to basically manage our actions. So we want that community condition to be there, we want it to be available, and then we want to be able to set our targets to make actions, whether that's public Wi-Fi, whether that's one-to-one laptop programs for internet, whether those are actions that are related to the conditions that are important into the areas of work that you do or the customers that you serve. As a technologist, I get to think about all my customers. It is important for us to be able to invest where the needs are greatest, and we need public, private, civic partners to do that. So I just want to make sure that we think about that. I will skip to the last one. Why does location matter? Because in this country, race and place matters. And we need to get comfortable talking about race, racism, whiteness, and white privilege. We need to understand that we are in a white supremacist culture. That does not mean that everybody's running around wanting to hang somebody up from a tree. But it does mean that that's the water and the air that we breathe. And we need to understand that so that we can dismantle this system, because collectively, it's not sustainable. Thank you.